Welcome to Scanner School. Today we are answering your Scanner radio questions. Hey, my name is Phil Lichtenberger, and today we are celebrating 6 years of weekly podcasts. I started this podcast in 2018 with the goal of teaching as many people as possible about the Scanner radio hobby, and here we are 6 years later, still going strong every single week. And new for this year, yeah, you guessed it, we're here on YouTube. So this podcast is now on an audio format, still available on all of your favorite podcast platforms, and right here, right now on YouTube. So let's get on to our very first question.
Hello, Phil. Jake Jacobson here. My question for you is, I have a 996 P2, and in the settings menu, I have a option where it says the LP filter. I understand that's for the P25 filter and whatnot, but my question is, what does it exactly do? I haven't noticed a change between the on or off. That's my question to you, and there's nobody else better to answer it than you, I'm sure. That I know for a fact. That's what I'm asking. Hope you have a good rest of the year, and proud Patreon supporter here. Keep doing the good work that you're doing, Phil. Thank you.
Hey, Jacob, thank you again for all the support and being there and also being part of the Scanners community over on our Discord server. So the LP filter, this is something I actually had to look up. I went over to Mark Scanners and I took a look for what this actually was. And this is basically a low-pass filter that eliminates a 4 kilohertz tone that you can hear on some P25 systems. Not all of them, but some of them. And this might be why you don't hear a difference when you enable and disable this LP filter, because you may not be hearing this 4 kilohertz tone on the P25 system that you are monitoring. Now, as a warning, this is something that if you enable on your scanner, it does increase the workload on the CPU. So if you have an environment that the scanner is kind of struggling to decode the P25 talk groups, you might find out if you enable this, the scanner is going to drop more packets and the audio will become more choppy. So what you want to do is only turn this on if that tone absolutely drives you crazy. If you don't need to turn it on, leave it off. Now, again, you can find this in your settings for the P25 system. It's under LP filter. And again, that's where you can turn it off and on. So moral of the story here, you may not hear that 4 kilohertz tone on your P25 system. If you do hear it and it does drive you nuts and you want to disable it, you can always turn on or enable the LP filter in the settings for that P25 system. But remember, it will add more processing workload on the scanner. Jacob, thank you so much for asking me your question. And again, stick around because somebody's going to want a free tutoring session at the end of this podcast episode. Now, again, you can book me for a tutoring session by going to scannerschool.com/tutoring. Before we continue on with the podcast, I just would like to thank my Patreon supporters. This podcast wouldn't have been here for the last 6 years if it wasn't for your support. You can help support us by going over to scannerschool.com/Patreon. And don't forget, there's benefits to becoming a Patreon supporter, such as getting the podcast early and also not getting this upcoming break. We'll catch you all in just a second. All right, our next question comes from Bill Sellers. Bill, go ahead and ask me your question.
This is Bill Sellers calling, and my question is, I have the Uniden Home Patrol 2, and I was wondering if you knew when the Uniden Home Patrol 3 might be coming out. It's been 10 years since the 2 has been out on the market, and I just kind of thought maybe a 3 might be coming out, and I would purchase that from you or somewhere. I don't know if you have that or not. I am interested in Home Patrol 3. Thank you very much. Bye.
Bill, this is a great one. A Home Patrol 3. This is something that I would love to see. And in fact, I did a video on a Home Patrol 3 wish list. And if you're watching this over on YouTube, right at the top of the screen here, there'll be a link so that you can go check out that video. But hey, don't check it out until you've finished watching this one. There is a link in the description of this video and also on the audio podcast for you guys listening in the car or on your walk, or whatever else it is, right? So check out my wish list for a Home Patrol 3. But will we see a Home Patrol 3? I don't think so. At least not in the near-term future. I don't even know if this is even on Uniden's radar of something to do. You see, I can't see on the other side of the curtain. I don't have beta access. I don't have keys to the office, so to speak. I'm in this with you guys, which is where I love to be because it gives me the same point of view as the rest of the scanner community, right? The majority of the scanner community. And I am along for the ride with the rest of you scanners, right? We are all in this together, and it is amazing to be a part of the journey with you guys. So, a Home Patrol 1 initially came out, and it was a touchscreen device that allowed us to easily take it out of the box, turn it on, put our zip code in, and with any luck, listen to the local police, fire, and all the other activity out there. But it really worked best when you plugged it into your computer, and then you were able to then update the Home Patrol database. And also, you were able to then create your own favorites list. And there were updates to the Home Patrol along the way, such as the Extreme upgrade. The Extreme upgrade allowed you to daisy chain favorites list. It allowed you to do some basic logging and seeing what's on a system and logical channel finding and all those other magic that didn't happen. But the most important thing that upgrade allowed you to do was to plug the serial port in from the scanner, get a raw control data output, and feed it to other software. But there was a problem with the Home Patrol 1. The Home Patrol 1 didn't have enough horsepower, didn't have enough CPU in order to do P25 phase 2 decoding. You couldn't monitor a P25 phase 2 talk group. It just wasn't enough processor power, wasn't enough bandwidth, there wasn't enough something in the radio. There was a hardware limitation that prevented that radio from going any further. They hit a wall. That was the end of it. There was no progressing beyond P25 phase 1 with the Home Patrol 1 or the original Home Patrol. This is why we now have a Home Patrol 2. The Home Patrol 2, not only did it get a color change, but it got a lot of updated hardware inside. It now allows us to monitor these P25 phase 2 talk groups. What are some of the things I would love to see in a Home Patrol 3? Like again, in that video, I've outlined it, but to summarize really quickly, I would love to see some Bluetooth. I'd love to see Wi-Fi. Heck, I would love to see a waterfall, which is something that we just got from Uniden just a couple of weeks ago. And again, we're going to talk about that coming up on the podcast. So make sure you are subscribed so you can catch that podcast episode. All these things said, would a Home Patrol 3 make sense? Is there enough horsepower in a Home Patrol 2 to do DMR, to do NXDN, to do Pro Voice? I don't know. I don't know the specs of what's in there. I don't know its limitations. But if there was a Home Patrol 3, I would expect that Home Patrol 3 to be able to do DMR and NXDN on top of P25 phase 2. Now, if the powers that be that we all bow down to over at Uniden are listening, watching, etc., we would love to see an update, whether it be to the Home Patrol 2 platform as maybe a paid upgrade, right, to get DMR, NXDN, a waterfall display. If we're getting some updates to our SDS line of scanners, maybe you guys can work in a little bit of time to code in some upgrades to the Home Patrol. Now, obviously, we won't be able to get a waterfall display in a Home Patrol 2 because it's not a software-defined radio back end or receiver, right? A Home Patrol 3 on my wish list? Yeah, I wished. I was asking, maybe it could be a software-defined radio, just like an SDS, but not as powerful and at a better price point. This way, it would work in a simulcast environment because that's another limitation on the Home Patrol 2. But if we can get major upgrades via software in a Home Patrol 2, I think that would satisfy the itch for a lot of people, including myself. I would love to be able to do DMR and XDN on top of P25 phase 2 in a Home Patrol 2. That might make it a Home Patrol 2.5. Who knows? But Bill, to answer your question, I don't know. We're all in this together. I would love to see a new Home Patrol style radio from Uniden. Maybe a different form factor, maybe not. We are supposed to get 2 new radios this coming year, the BCD or the BCD 160DN and also I believe it's a 260DN. These are conventional only scanners. that will do NXDN, I believe, DMR. I got to check my notes on that one. But, you know, it's great that we are at least seeing some forward movement from Uniden. I would love to see some forward movement from Whistler, but again, we'll see what happens. There's a lot of exciting things happening in the scanner radio world. And again, we are all in it together. So again, thank you for being there. Now, again, we have to give away a free tutoring session. If you need help with your scanner radio and you are looking for somebody to be on the other side of the screen just like this, I'm here to help you via Zoom. Just go to scannerschool.com/tutoring, book me for an hour, and we will sit across the screen and do a screen share, and I'll help you either program your radio, understand something that has you stuck. And nothing is more enjoyable to me than to hear somebody screaming off camera or on the other side of the room, or even right there on camera saying, "Oh my God, I got the scanner working. I have never heard anything come out of this speaker before." And it's every time I hear that, it is just such a great feeling. And I want to help you get there as well. Again, scannerschool.com/tutoring. So again, let's give away a free tutoring session. Again, if you want to be in a running for a free tutoring session, all you got to do is submit me a question via my voicemail number, 516-308-2885, or you can use our SpeakPipe link. Everything you need to know is over on our Ask page. And then again, the description has your links. And being that we are celebrating our 6-year anniversary, and being that it's a new year, and I'm very excited to be able to bring video to the platform right now, let's just make it easy. Jacob and Bill, thank you for asking me your questions. The two of you, hey, you guys both won a free tutoring session just for pick up the phone and leaving me a voicemail. And again, I want to invite all of you to be part of our Scan Nerds community. Go to scannerschool.com/Discord or scannerschool.com/Facebook group to become a part of the Scanner School Scan Nerds group. Make sure you subscribe either on our podcast platform or right here on YouTube so you don't miss the next upcoming podcast episode. We'll catch you all next time on the podcast. This is Scanner School, where we teach you everything to know about the scanner radio hobby. 73.